You know, Reeve.
Hi. Well, I'm amazed at how intelligibly they fit all of that in. Wasn't that amazing?
It's amazing.
The whole storyline. Reading it on the page is one thing, but to be able to execute that on screen, brilliant work by those guys. I enjoyed it thoroughly.
So I feel like one of the things I really appreciate about the show is the way it structures, how much patience it has when it structures the season, because we haven't seen Dorian for a couple of weeks, but... Oh, okay. But when he comes back swinging, and I feel like that's the case with everyone. People might not have a storyline at all one week and then come back the next week and have a huge one. And I feel like from an audience standpoint, that's really satisfying, but how is it for an actor? Do you feel like, how is the filming process for you? Do you film all of the scenes at once for you? Or?
Generally, I'm there for anywhere between 5 and 7 months, and there are benefits to both. I mean, I recently was involved in the Rocky Horror Picture Show remake, which was a blast. But in that, you know, in a lot of scenes, I'm kind of in the background, but I'm in every scene. Like, I was in pretty much every day, which was different for me and unusual compared to Penny Dreadful, where I have, you know, little spots here and there. The thing I love about, I love both for different reasons, because you get to be more in the swing of things when you're there every day. But on Penny Dreadful, I love the fact that I have so much time to, you know, consider everything. And when you have such an incredible ensemble like this show, and it's written and structured in that way, you do have the opportunity to sort of spend as much time as possible on the material, which for me is my favorite way to work. So I do enjoy it.
How much do you know at the start of the season about what your storyline is going to be? Do you just find out with each script, or do you get sort of a general overview?
It depends. With the first season, I had only read the first 2 episodes prior to getting word that I had actually gotten the job and accepting the position. And then immediately following, John Logan sent through episodes 3 and episodes 4 from season 1, and I was like, oh, okay, here's where we're going. All right. And you know, you don't recall probably right now what occurs in those episodes, but maybe if you think about it. But there's certain things I wasn't aware doing in the first season. But yeah, no. Generally, we have that. The second season, we had 8 episodes prior to getting to Dublin on set. This year, I think we had 9. 3 or did we have 9? I don't think we did. 9. Did somebody who said that?
It's lying. It's lying.
Oh yeah. In terms of how much there will be 9 episodes presented, but before we got to Dublin, I think we'd only read maybe 3 or 4 this year.
Oh.
Yeah. So it depends on how rapidly they're writing, and it's been an incredible test for John Logan, because this episode and the episode prior are the first episodes ever not written by John. Episodes 5 and 6. Everything else has been written by John Logan, and he hired 2 young, brilliant writers to help this year because he had a lot of other things he was doing. He wanted to just kind of expand things a bit, and it's been really fun working with them as well.
So obviously in this episode, we're starting to see Dorian question his place in this movement that's basically an uprising of a bunch of women, which, I mean, you know, why wouldn't he? So what did you think when you found out that this was going to be Dorian's storyline this season, that he would basically be working with a group of women who are out to kill all men?
Oh yeah, I mean, I thought it was perfectly appropriate for Dorian. I think, you know, because of his progressive-minded way of being, I think, I thought of it sort of as, from Dorian's perspective, being sort of a hellish version of a human rights activist. In a way, kind of like, that's his perspective. To me, I think for Lily and for Justine, it's something different because they have so much personal experience being on the other end of that brutality and all these things. But for Dorian, I think, I don't see him necessarily as bloodthirsty. As I think, you know, when Dorian does something that involves blood, it's not necessarily out of the desire to inflict pain on someone that they wouldn't otherwise want to be inflicted upon them, you know. But with Lily, I think it is a bit of a revenge thing. I think Dorian can get behind the cause because, you know, it's sort of in the same way that Batman or V for Vendetta can get behind this. It's like, this is the right thing to do. We need to, like, you know, stop these guys. Not that Dorian's a hero. I mean, in a way, like, I guess he's an anti-hero. But I think that's that's about as far as it goes. So I think when he realizes, oh, okay, I'm being wedged out of this situation, there is a turn which I think you see for the first time in episode 6 tonight, that there's a bit of a shift. Like, wait a minute, this is my house. This is my house. You know, I don't know.
Could we be moving towards something with Dorian and Victor maybe teaming up a little bit? Can you say?
Well, it was hard to hear in here sometimes because of the resonant frequencies, obscuring some of the things around, above 1 kilohertz. But I think like one of the lines is Frankenstein asks Dorian, Victor asks Dorian, what are you waiting on my gratitude? Are you waiting on my gratitude? And Dorian says, you basically just, you guessed that right, but you're in my debt, and I will call on it at some point. So I guess, there's, it's hinted.
I almost want to know why it took Dorian so long to start to question his place in this movement. I know. Because I felt like so clearly from the beginning, Lily was calling the shots here. So, how were you playing it early on?
Well, I think I guess I was playing it, I'm trying to think. I think Dorian is 100% behind the feminist movement as it existed at that time, and just as he would be, today. So I think all of that stuff, he's perfectly happy to let a woman lead. But I think when it comes to getting, making it so that there's no sort of respect for the thing, and as soon as he gets stomped on, I think that's the thing that he doesn't like. But I think he's 100% behind everything, Lily's cause, as long as it doesn't involve pushing him out completely.
And so I need to go back a few episodes because I feel like we'd be remiss not to talk about the blood threesome. So, can you take us through your thought process when you found out that was happening and the filming?
I had to do months of research for that. No, I'm kidding. But no, it was. I thought it was amazing. I mean, because I think for me it's the equivalent for Dorian of Vanessa having like a deeply spiritual, psychotic experience. It's like the most extreme version of what people come to expect from him, I think. So I thought it was great. Anything to push the boundaries is really fun. And it smelled like maple syrup. Like I said, I don't know what they used with that. But yeah, it was great. Yeah, it was great. Great, respectful. All 3 people involved were very respectful, and also had a great sense of humor, which is the most important thing because those scenes are so ridiculous and crazy. But you just have to go and jump into it, and just the easiest thing to do is. My uncle, some of you may know, most of you are too young, but my uncle was a very famous actor named Reeve Carney from the television show. Yeah, my great uncle. But he used to say about acting, it's just like, you just be somebody else. I mean, it's very simple, I think, in a way, but in these instances, it's important to think of it in that way, I think, because a lot of actors use, substitutions or different things you might draw from your own life in different ways. But in a scene like this, I don't really know where you can draw from it. So you kind of just have to pretend to be Dorian Gray.
I was working with Billy Piper, obviously. You 2 do a lot together.
Yeah, Billy's brilliant, and she's so fun. And I was saying upstairs, she's so encouraging to everyone on set. Because it can get, it's a very serious atmosphere on set, which I think is required. I mean, for instance, comparison to some, for instance, Rocky Horror, it was very comedically oriented and quite a lot of fun on set, and you can kind of joke around a little bit. But they don't really have a whole lot of joking around on Penny Dreadful, but I think that adds to the experience for the audience, But so it's helpful when you have another actor who's encouraging you, because you can get in this dark zone due to the nature of the material. So it's great. She's wonderful to work with. And one of my favorite scenes to work on was the one with Victor and Lily and Justine. And it was just a long day, but a lot of fun. We had a great time. those scenes with a lot of actors are oftentimes fun. I don't get to do them that often because the ones I don't always like working. They always make that joke in Hollywood, like with animals or something. But those are the days that are the hardest for me. When there are a bunch of loud animals like running around, like a horse or something, or a number of horses. But it's great working with a lot of actors. That's for sure.
And even when you're doing scenes with just you and one other actor, I feel like throughout the show, you more than a lot of the cast members have had the chance to work with like a lot of the characters on the show. Is there a reason you think why Dorian's been kind of like a through line for so many of the relationships?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it comes to my mind when you ask me. This might sound funny, but like he's kind of like maybe like a go-to spice in the kitchen. He's not necessarily like your staple, like, you know, poultry or vegetable or sort of like, I don't know, but like, you know, it's something that, oh yeah, we'll put all this on here and see what happens. I think that's kind of his function on some level, so I think it's kind of great that I get to interact with everyone, because you never know what Dorian Gray is going to bring out in you, you know?
Did you do a lot of research on the character? How did you prep in that sense?
Yeah, I've been aware of Dorian Gray since probably, maybe I was 16, I think, the first time I heard about Dorian Gray. And I did not choose to read the picture of Dorian Gray in school, so it wasn't until I got the audition, because I had a pretty liberal arts sort of teacher, English literature teacher that would let us choose maybe you guys had that too, but getting to choose sort of novels that we wanted to read off of certain lists and things like that. But I did read upon receiving the call to audition. And you know, you have to draw from things that you have experienced and also draw from research. I don't know, I mean, there's certain things that I sort of naturally sort of understood about his thought process, I think, maybe, and just kind of try to do that. I do a lot of other different things. I study privately, and my teachers have pretty left of center ways of training their students.
How do you find the humanity and the relatability in an immortal character?
Oh. Well, one thing, the first question I think to think of is how would it be, you know, how would you feel? This isn't a question I think you should, I don't even think anyone should think about this unless they're needing to for a role, but I mean, you know, if everyone you loved died before you, you know, it's kind of and for centuries. I mean, that's the first thing that makes it pretty easy to get into that place. And you know, it's so transitory. You know, there's never a chance for anything to last forever with Dorian Gray. So even though he does, so you know that makes it so that really nothing lasts forever. So I don't know. That's one of the first things that I think of. There's maybe more.
And I think one last question from me before we open up to the audience. But can you tease anything going forward? Anything?
I mean, I'm trying to think what's wise to tease. I will say that I am so excited for the next 3 episodes. So I will say that I like some of my favorite scenes that I had the opportunity to be a part of happened in episodes 7, 8, and 9, and that's including all 3 seasons. So I'm definitely excited for you guys to see those. I think I might leave it at that, just because I think you get the idea from seeing tonight where it's headed, and I don't want to give too much away, but definitely one thing I will say is it's sort of, you know, obviously Dorian has traded places with his portrait, and I think for the first time in the following episodes you see the cracks on the surface sort of start to develop, not physically but emotionally, where, you know, certain sides of Dorian that have not been revealed up until now, or have been allowed to have been expressed. So I'm excited for that.
Okay, so any questions from the audience? Yes.
I was just struck by you saying, imagine what it would be like if everyone in your life died before you. Does that then make Dorian lonely at his core?
Definitely, I think certainly.
Even though he's the spice that everybody goes to, you know, I think that
I think he has to find ways. Did you guys all hear that? You heard? Okay.
Yeah.
I think he has to find ways to keep things exciting, and whether for some people it's like, oh, I'll go out for a coffee today, or I'll go for a walk, or obviously he takes it to another level. But yeah, I think certainly that's one of the primary things I think with Dorian, sense of isolation.
In the side, hi.
So you say you were shooting in Ireland for this third season for like 5 to 7 months, but then you also have like off time between episodes. So what do you do when you're off time?
Oh, that's a good question. I have found some incredible restaurants. Believe it or not, like some of the best Mexican food I've ever had in my life is in Dublin. It doesn't make any sense, but it's true. Like, there's a place called 777. If you go to Dublin, go there. It's amazing. But I see a lot of movies. I go to restaurants. I mean,
You travel around?
I don't really, which might make people think I'm nuts. But I think I don't. I'm a very safe driver and a good driver. I drive like an 80-year-old man with good reflexes. But, no, that's fine. Just keep it safe. But for that reason, I'm a little nervous to drive in Ireland because on the other side of the road there are a lot of roundabouts. The streets are very narrow, and also I don't really want to go on a road trip by myself. Maybe you guys like doing that. I don't know. I'd rather have somebody with me. So for me, I do tend to spend my time in Dublin, which there's plenty to do there though. It's great.
I studied abroad in Dublin and I never found that Mexican restaurant, so I'm gonna have to go back. Okay, but yeah, it might not have existed when I was there, but okay, and I think back there we have one too.
Going back to the picture of Dorian Gray, do we ever get to see his origin story? Do we ever get to see how he became?
That's a good question. I don't think it's giving too much away by saying that this season you don't see that, because obviously you see it's leading somewhere greater than just any single character. But I hope that there's the opportunity for that. They just have to keep finding ways to make me look younger, so I can go. Let's do like the Benjamin Button thing on YouTube. But I would love that. Yeah, I would love it if they would.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, one of my favorite things about this season was the introduction of Justine. So I wondered, what was your reaction to getting that, catalyst character with Dorian's relationship with Lily?
Oh yeah, I definitely got chills the first time I read that scene in episode 2, because I obviously didn't know where it was going, having read it for the first time on the page, and I was thinking, wow, on the page it says interior snuff club or something like that. I was like, whoa, this is going even darker than I thought. Because I thought, at the end of the second season, you know that it's going to go somewhere dark with Dorian and Lily, but I didn't know it was going to go that dark. And so I was following that trail, and then out of nowhere, it's like, and Dorian pulls out 2 revolvers. I was like, whoa, this is awesome. So that was really cool. I thought, that is amazing. Getting the chance to have that shift on the audience and to be somewhat of a hero, be in a heroic position. I thought that was really exciting for me, for Dorian, because he hasn't really necessarily been in that position up until that point. Yeah, it was exciting. Yeah.
Is there anyone over here?
Yes. What initially inspired you to become an actor?
Well, I was a really shy child. I mean, I still have aspects of that, but because of that, my mom was here tonight. She's over there, and my sister. Yeah. My mom put me. She's not a stage mom at all, actually. In fact, she didn't want me to be an actor, but she wanted me to be a doctor. I could still. Or a lawyer. I think doctor would be more my thing, but yeah, but I was very shy, so in order to help me get over that, she put me into improv classes when I was 5 years old, and so started doing that. And then by the time I was 8, I came to my parents and said, I want to be an actor. And they were like, I don't know. It's not a good idea, maybe. But then by the time I was 12, I discovered the guitar, and then it was game over. For me, that was it. And I mean, I spent, from the age of 12 until 27, I exclusively pursued music. But yeah, like I went to conservatory for jazz guitar, so that's what I was expecting to do. But then I got pulled back into it by a woman named Julie Taymor, who a lot of you probably know, an incredible director. She came to one of my concerts. My friend TV Carpio invited her. Have you guys seen Across the Universe?
Yeah.
The girl who plays Prudence? Yeah, that's TV Carpio. So she's one of my best friends, and she invited Julie to come to the show, and she said, I want you to audition for my film, The Tempest. And I was like, is it a problem that I'm not an actor? And she's like, I think you are an actor. I was like, alright, well, I was like, if Julie Taymor says I'm an actor, I'll give it a shot. So that's really why I did it. And then ever since, really, Spider-Man on Broadway was what made me fall in love with acting. That's when I started thinking, okay, I do actually love this. I'm not just, because even with that, I got into that because of my voice probably more than anything else, I think. I think that's what, helped me get that job. But, yeah, so I guess that's the story.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm an actor and actually was just been given the opportunity to shoot a pilot, sci-fi. I don't know if you had any like advice or information about like your experience and kind of getting started in that. So, it's kind of a vampire type show.
Oh, nice.
If you had any advice.
Well, one thing is, have you worked with cameras much?
I mean, not on as professional level.
Because I was nervous about that. That's the reason I asked. And I remember telling my acting teacher, what about the cameras and this and that? And he's like, what cameras? And I was like, okay. Also, there's another thing, like, I know some people, they, like, I don't really do this, but they'll, like, go up to the camera in the beginning of the day and go, like, hi, I'm glad you're here. They're like, thank you, like, welcome into this. They're, like, different approaches, but I think anything to, like, stay relaxed, anything you can do to just, like, stay relaxed is, like, the most important thing, in my opinion. Just, so whether it be ignoring cameras or acknowledging them, I think a bit of both maybe is good, but yeah, I like to know sort of, I don't know, just anything that can keep you in that space of relaxation, I think is the most helpful. And so for me, like preparing a lot is what helps me, just so I know everything as well as I possibly can going in, so that I can just be listening, because I think listening is the most important thing. So, but it's hard to listen if you're concerned with, like if you're in a conversation with someone else, let's say like you go, I'm not a master by any means, but like, if you're thinking about something that happened to you earlier that day, sometimes that could work for a scene, but like in real life I'm saying, and you're just stressed out about, oh no, my hair like doesn't look right, or like, and so they're talking to you, but you're not really hearing anything they're saying because all you're thinking about is how nervous you are about something, or like self-conscious. And I think getting rid of that self-consciousness is the most important thing. So like, being so aware of the roadmap before you go in is very helpful, because then you can really be present with the other actor and just listen to them. I think that's the best. For me, that's the most helpful.
Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
Are we ever gonna see the after scene with Ives and Dorian and what?
Like a DVD extras.
Right? So much it seems like it was left out.
I know. We did shoot something, but I don't know. I mean, it was just like Doreen coming in and like being like, would you like some coffee? And he's like, and he was kind of like half dressed. I don't know. It was funny. I don't know. I didn't ever see it, but I think it must not have made sense like in the context, and that's why they kept it out. Maybe, I don't know. But yeah, maybe they'll make a flashback. Maybe they'll show like the whole scene. I have to get Josh like a really good wig now.
Yes, this is the last question. Sorry. Sorry.
Yeah, Reeve. I think everybody would be interested in knowing. Walk us through the casting process that got you this role. Because I don't think there is an actor on earth I can think of that could have nailed this as well as you. So tell us what you were put through to get to this.
Oh wow, thank you so much for listening. This was actually like a relatively simple audition process for me, surprisingly. Like compared to some other things I've had, it was just someone that came through my agent where they said, hey, here's the script. We think you should go out for this. And so I went into Bernie Telsey's casting office here in New York City, and I was really nervous. I mean, for me, I like to, like I said, be as prepared as possible, but just because I do get, you can get nervous in an audition. It's just natural, I think. But I went in, and I remember seeing, I won't say who, but I saw like what I would consider to be like a famous actor, like in the room, like auditioning for my part. I knew that, and I was like, oh wow. And it made me really nervous. So I was like, wow, they're like trying to get guys like this? Oh wow, okay. And so then, thankfully, like, again, like I don't think this is bad to say, but like, thankfully, it was a good icebreaker for me because I came in the room. I guess I won't say the whole story, but I got in the room. The casting director was amazing. She, I never met her, but she was just really. That was lucky. I think that really helped because she didn't necessarily know I was nervous, but she unwittingly calmed me down a little bit, enough to go through the scene a couple times, and that was it. I mean, I went on tape for it. She was like, great. Then they sent it to London, where John Logan was working already on the production. And about 4 or 5 days later, I got a phone call from John Logan in my dressing room at Spider-Man, saying, like, listen, I know you're kind of nervous about the nudity and all this stuff, but I want to set your mind at ease. I really hope you'll come to London and we'll sit down and we'll talk about this and you'll read for us again and do this. And I was like, yeah, oh sure. Like, if John's telling me, I was like, I better go, Okay, so then I went to London on my 1 day off from Spider-Man, and like on a red eye, and I got there, I auditioned. I thought to myself, wow, I didn't do very well. Like I didn't think I did a great job. And then I got back, and about a week later, they told me I got the part. So it was only about a 3-week process for that, which normally it's longer in my experience. But yeah. Hopefully, I know it's not maybe the most interesting story.
Well, it's something that everybody is very interested in.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, where you go with Dorian Gray, the obvious choice once you see it is you. but I mean, somebody has to step back and say, well, we have this one and this one and this one, and it becomes you.
I feel very lucky about that.
I mean, well, it's a game changer.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it really is.
It's been amazing. You guys have been so wonderful. Like, all of you watching the show. I mean, yeah, for me, this has been a huge thing in my life. It's been so great to be a part of this particular show. It's just, I don't know, it feels so good.
Reeve, thank you so much, and thank you everyone for coming.
Thank you.
Do you want to do something? It's all okay?
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Okay.
That's a good idea.
A good selfie.
Picture with everybody.